All right.
Super. I'd like to call the meeting to order of the City of Monona Sustainability Committee. I assume that you have the roll, Lisa.
We're all good.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from February 16th, 2022?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a second. Any changes, corrections, additions to the minutes from the 22nd or 16th rather? Okay.
Sorry, I just have a comment, which is thank you, Elisa, because I wasn't at that meeting and I thought it was, very thoroughly recorded as far as what was discussed and potential future action items. So very well done. Thank you.
No problem.
Right. Thank you. All those in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed, minutes are approved. Do we have any appearances this evening? No? Okay. Then we will move on to unfinished business, our Earth Week event. And we have Michelle here with us.
Yeah, so Michelle is one of the staff people from Resource Solutions. Some of you might have met her.
Hi, absolutely. Yeah, rock star keeping us all in line last time. Yeah.
Sorry, I have a very aggressive dog, so I'll turn my stuff off if he starts barking.
Okay. Not a problem.
If he does, mine will surely join in, so
Yeah.
no worries.
Yeah.
So I mean, a couple of things I know we talked to think about the date at the last meeting, but I just want to make sure everyone has it on their calendar. Saturday, April 23rd. And I'd like to get people signed up to help out at the event as soon as possible. So if anyone knows that they're definitely going to be available that Saturday right now, that'd be great. I'll start a list. So
I'll be there.
Who to keep in the loop.
Yeah, I've already got it on my calendar too, and we're planning to bring some contributions to the effort. So we're gonna clear some stuff out of the basement.
I'll be there as well.
Yeah, you can sign me up too.
Perfect. And then Michelle is here. I don't know, Michelle, if you want to say anything in particular, but otherwise, if you guys have questions about how the event will go, any of the actual recycling that gets done, that kind of stuff, I'll pass it over to Michelle.
Yeah, I think the only difference this year is the biggest problem in the state of Wisconsin that the DNR identified is battery recycling at events. And I think we kind of identified that last year as well. It's really hard to properly sort and identify with volunteers and making sure everything's taped and properly sorted. And we don't want to cause a fire because, anything hitting steel in the Madison-Dane County area alone, there were 4 fires just in our own waste management trucks from improperly disposed of batteries. Resource Solutions hasn't had any at events, but we have had close calls with lithium batteries and lead acids being stored really close to each other. And it's just hard to explain to people the difference. And that's just one of those education things that's going to take probably 2 to 3 years to educate the public on. It's really important to sort these and tape everything, so that's something that the DNR and I think every recycler is trying to encourage people. Even your alkaline batteries store power when it doesn't have enough power to, charge your electronics. It still has enough to cause a fire. So we can still recycle everything. It's just, we're going to encourage people to bring them to the facility so that we can sort them properly there, which is just on the other side of Madison. So we'll encourage them to go there. But the biggest thing is just to literally ask people if they have batteries, to just make sure that they tape them. Just tape them. I mean, that's the weirdest thing to say to people. I know, but it's like, just tape the terminals and store them in your plastic bag, and it should be okay. But a lot of people have been accustomed to just throwing them in their trash, or just putting them all together in their junk drawer and then bringing them in a like shoebox or whatever. And
Right.
just those little terminals hitting each other is causing sparks. So that's the biggest thing we kind of need to prepare for. Other than that, it's just trying to prepare for the post-COVID. I think the biggest thing was with this being last year being the first event for Monona.
Mhm.
And, it kind of happened at a weird time. We thought we were going to be out of COVID, and we couldn't really then at that point promote it as much as we wanted to, because we were still under the restrictions and guidelines. So I live in Monona as well. So
Ah,
we are a very green community. We're a very active community. So I think that the more that we share and the more that we talk to people, the more that people will come out. And I honestly, normally resource solutions events like the second year will have like a 20% increase and it with attendees, but I honestly think we'll probably see a greater attendance the more that we talk about it and the more we get people involved. So I'll just make sure that I get the banner, and I know that Brad said as long as I get it, probably in the next week or two, we'll put it up at the park. And we'll just try to make sure that we're spreading the word as much as we possibly can, because we want to get as much as we can from everybody.
right.
So whatever we can do to help. I know that whatever you need from us, if you need more content to share, just let me know. I'm fully capable of giving you graphics, sharing it, whatever you need from me. If you need word bites or whatever to share for people, just let me know.
So
Yeah.
Michelle, that begs a couple of questions for me. One
Mhm.
is, it seems to me last year you did provide some sort of a flyer that said what we were accepting. And
Yep,
I'm
and
assuming it might be an update to that.
Yep, I shared that with Elise already. So she has, I already printed the postcards. They get mailed this Friday to three routes in the Monona area. So it's like 2,700 households in the area will get a postcard. I have a few extra that I'm going to drop off to Elise. I know that last year we were talking about giving them to like the senior center and the library. I don't know where else we want to put them, but if you need any like other flyers or printable material, I can provide that for free. I mean, that's part of our service. We'll have other information, whatever you want from me, I will make sure that you have it. So any digital things that you want to share, I can give you the PDF of the flyer itself and the postcard itself. I already created a Facebook group for our company, but if you guys make one, then we'll share it. I don't know what other ways that you want to promote it. That's all
Yeah,
up to you
so-
guys.
Yeah, we'll get it up on Facebook. Thank you for sending me the postcard graphic. So I'll get that up. I'll also make sure that's included in both the March newsletter for the city and the April newsletter for the city. And I believe the April newsletter will come out just before the event. So that should work really nicely for us. And yeah, if people have ideas of where like physical copies of those postcards might be useful to hand out, let me know. But other than putting them at the library and the senior center, I don't know, I feel like getting the word out digitally is easier and a little more effective.
Yeah.
If it's all right, it might be worth posting at like, like some of the schools in town, like the elementary school or at Nuestro Mundo, or just to kind of connect with more families in the area that way. That may not, be scouring our sustainability Facebook page.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we can probably actually in that regard too. I know because of Friends of San Damiano that you know, there's the mom's newsletter that goes out at the school that we used for the snow snake event. And I'm sure, you know, it's the equivalent of the flyers that used to get stuffed in the backpacks of the kids at school.
Yeah,
And Melissa Bedini for Snow Snake was able to put something in that mom's newsletter, I guess, that goes out. And so we could probably find a way to do it in there too, to help get the word out among
Yeah.
families.
if you have the contact information for whoever sends that out,
I will.
I can reach out to them.
Yep. I will
then-
get that.
Oh, sorry. And also, I don't know if you guys realize that there is also a grant opportunity. I don't know who on the sustainability committee does grants, but in 2022, there is a new DNR grant for hard to reach communities. So that might be something to think about for especially our Hmong community and some other things, because it might be able to provide funds where it would cover the things that normally would have fees. So that's something to reach out to the Wisconsin DNR about, because it would cover like your service fee for the event, but it would also cover a certain amount for people to bring in their items.
Okay.
So just a grant opportunity to think of.
Yeah, I can look into that.
Great, thank you. And then, yeah, I was gonna say, does anybody want to do some PSAs, volunteer to do some PSAs on VML?
I'll do some. I can do it.
Great,
I can do some too. I did that last time, I think. At some
Great.
point.
great. So Sarah and Molly are on for PSAs, fantastic.
We can get some kids maybe. That'd be fun too.
Yeah, I was gonna say MG21, did a connection get made with the sustainability group? Because I know they probably have fun doing some PSAs.
Yeah.
Putting that together.
Maybe I'll
They're
write
fantastic.
Rebecca Fox Blair. Does she still work
Yep.
with? Yep. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
And if anybody needs an inflatable T-Rex costume that they think might make it cute, I have one.
That's perfect for recycling. So
You
I
know,
was
fossil
thinking-
fuels, Teresa, fossil fuels. Get the
Awesome.
connection.
Oh, I
You
like
get it?
that. We're digging up stuff that's as old as the dinosaurs and we're burning it. Yeah. So, in terms of advertising, Molly brought up something about the schools that kind of sparked an idea. Elisa, you could reach out to Katie Burns Kaiser. She's the school district's communication director, and she can coordinate a blurb going out in the newsletter of every single school. And I don't know what she'll say to that, you know, whether she'll feel that it's relevant. I do know that, you know, with the solar project going on the high school, the district is sort of recommitting to sustainability in general. So this could be, you know, your angle could be, you know, I'm very aware of this big project and I know of your commitment to sustainability. And do you feel like this would be fitting, you know, won't take up too much space, but just something that goes out in the newsletters.
And we are also open to like 4 or 5 high school students who need their community service hours for graduation. So if they
Oh,
want to help
okay.
out, then we can sign off on their community service hours. So that might be something as well.
Yeah. Molly,
Right.
if you
That's
reach out
fantastic.
to Rebecca Fox Blair, toss that in there in case she has any students who need community service hours.
Sure.
Mhm.
Can I get a like a little write-up of that or something so I can include it?
Yeah,
I know
definitely.
exactly what to say. Okay.
Yeah, on Monday, I'll draft language about all this and send it to you for PSAs and any outreach you want to do.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Michelle, do all seniors have to put in so many hours of community service?
Well, MG21, they have community project requirements as
Okay.
part of all their
Okay.
PBLs. So
And I
Okay.
think actually, Teresa, it used to be a requirement for all Monona Grove High School students. I was just talking
Oh.
about this last week with the senior committee, but I don't think it's a requirement anymore.
Okay.
So my other question, Michelle, was to go back to the batteries for a minute. So I remember last year when we were sort of coaching the cars as they were coming around, we
Mhm.
were asking them if they had any batteries. I believe we were asking them if they had anything with batteries in it. Should we actually have something like masking tape or packing tape or something so that when cars are queued up before they get around to you where we're taking stuff away from them, they actually could we could be handing them tape to make sure that the batteries
We
stay in?
We can't accept batteries at events at all.
Okay,
So
cannot.
all batteries, so we're gonna have a little, probably like a third of a sheet of paper. So batteries and light bulbs need to be brought to our office.
Hmm.
So
okay,
there'll be a thing that says, we'll still take them. And they can bring them whenever they want. They don't have to like drive over immediately or anything. We'll take them whenever they want to, and it'll just say, whenever you're available, drive over to this address and we'll take your light bulbs and your batteries. But they
Okay,
have to bring them to the facility, because if they put them in the event truck, we're afraid that we won't have the time to properly sort,
yep,
because those stupid batteries are so small
yeah,
and they look so similar. They have things that look like alkaline batteries that are lead batteries now that are,
right,
it's just insane. It used to be 5 types and now it's literally 27 types of batteries.
right,
So, and you have to physically look at them with a magnifying glass sometimes to find out, is this a lithium ion? Is it a lithium ion polymer? Is it a NiCad? Is it a
right,
nickel metal hydride? So it's not as clear cut as it used to be.
okay.
So, and
So
that's where the
we're-
problem ends up.
So the flyer actually says like no light bulbs, no batteries.
Yep, it
And
says
then-
there's a
And we're
big
gonna be
section
double
now.
checking as cars are coming
Yeah.
around. We'll be double checking and saying, make sure you have no batteries, no light bulbs, right?
Yeah.
Got it.
So there's a little section now that says, these are the items we can no longer take. Can't take light bulbs, we can't take batteries, nothing with gasoline, nothing with oil, nothing with tires, nothing with light bulbs. So light bulbs and batteries have to be brought to the facility. We don't take tires, we don't take gas, we don't take oil.
Right.
So,
So if somebody's
Um,
dropping a old mower. I remember we had a few of those last time.
that caused a big delay most of the time. So electric motors will take. Anyone who has a gas mower, we'll likely send them over to the facility, because we cannot take them in the line
Okay,
because they'll hold up the rest of the line,
okay,
but nothing with gas, nothing at all with oil.
okay.
We
Got it.
can take them at the facility, but we can't take them at events because it's just backed everybody up. And then it frustrates the people who
Sure,
come, and then they get mad at the host and they get mad at us because they don't know how to properly drain
right,
they don't know how to get all the gas out. They don't know how to get all the oil out.
right.
And it's hard to tell somebody that, and you don't want them to get so frustrated with recycling that they won't bring things.
Right, right. Okay. Any other questions for Michelle or thoughts? It's been great. I'm really glad you came.
Thanks for inviting me, guys. Here, I'll turn my video off.
All right.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Okay. So, other 2022 outreach events.
Yeah, so I know Molly had wanted to just go through the, so Parks and Rec has a calendar of all their big events that will be upcoming, and
Yeah.
I can, let me share that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how about maybe put it up on the screen?
Yeah. There we go. Can you guys all see that?
Yeah.
So this is a very comprehensive list, and obviously not all of these will make sense for us, but I think it is helpful just to have some of the dates of certain events that we've talked about, like some of the beer gardens, or the Memorial Day Parade is on here. And Molly, I don't know if there were any particular events that you wanted to call out from this list.
Sorry, ironically, I too was dealing with a dog issue. I know that Ken stepped away to do the same. I think the biggest ones would be things like the summer concert series in Winnequa Park. I shared the dates for those, I think separately, although I'm not sure if they're here in this document or not. And then the community festival and the fall festival. I think those are kind of like the biggies that I would really prefer we have a sign up for. What I might do is create a document or a doodle poll or a sign up sheet, Sign Up Genius with some of these dates. But then, if anyone looks at the list and they find that there's one that's important, I think National Night Out is another biggie. It's where we held our sustainability showcase a couple years ago. We may want to consider doing something a little bit bigger again this year, given that, participation and attendance will probably be bigger again. But yeah, so I think it's more just keep in mind, but those are the biggies that we've discussed in the past. And again, if it would be helpful, I'm happy to create a sign up to just make sure that people are having it on their radars now. So we're not scrambling at the last minute, which I own up to the fact that that was mostly my issue and my fault for late planning last year.
Great. So you're going to set up a Sign Up Genius or something then for people? Okay. I regretfully say that I will be physically not here a ton of the summer. Like I think I'm here all 2 weeks all summer because of my guiding schedule and consulting schedule. So I'll do what I can, but it's just the way it is. It's work. I can't avoid it. But I really appreciate everyone else signing up. And if we need to get other people on board to sign up, that'd be great. I still think that there's a discussion that I know we sort of started a couple of months ago in this committee around, what's the desired outcome as it relates to these events. I mean, is it going to be, is it a call to action? Are we just talking about sustainability and what we've accomplished and have the, exactly, we're going to devote this kind of volunteer time. I just think it would be important for us to get really dialed on what our goal is.
I have a thought.
Yeah.
So given that gas prices are going way up and everybody's under the crunch for increased everything from a bill point of view, maybe the focus is on the, reducing your footprint and finding ways to save. And so maybe it's, focusing on some of the programs for how they can trim their utility bill. Again, try to help people on the electric car front side of things consider their opportunities, and even looking at, solar again. These are all great programs. I've seen a lot more in mainstream media of people like being more motivated to double down on sustainability type things.
And I will piggyback on that just to say that generally, I think the most important point is talking about our accomplishments, allowing people to sign up for notifications or, giving them information about where they can find more about what we do, including as Dan said, tips on reducing, recycling, how to make, maximize their energy output and consumption. But I think, the biggest thing is just awareness, swag, and signing up for more information. I think that way we can also recruit more people to do different events that that we're talking about, putting our small committee at work to publicize that, what we do. So that's what I think the point is. And I think that's a good way, a good tie-in what Dan is mentioning about how we could make it a little bit more specific to, the context of these times.
Yeah, I think that's a great, Dan, I think that's a great suggestion, to kind of give it a little bit more of a hook, if you will, what we're trying to accomplish. I appreciate that, both of those, that feedback. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nancy, I don't recall off the top of my head what your out of town schedule is, but would you be here for Arbor Day? And if so, is there still a chance for a tree planting event?
Well,
April 29th. And that ties in with, Ken and I still have not met with the parks. We're just not hearing anything back from them, even though we did reach out to have an initial meeting about, just to understand the situation they find themselves in, to understand the tree canopy loss matter a bit better. That would be my first, we would need that meeting to happen first, but assuming it does happen and assuming that they might be okay with some sort of a tree planting event, would that even be possible, knowing your schedule? Or
maybe. Yeah, no, I mean, no, I mean, I can pull up my calendar. I don't have, it in front- well, I do. So, but have you guys tried to reach out to Public Works at all?
With Molly's help, we reached out through email,
Yeah.
requesting a meeting. And was it just with Molly? Could you recall? I can dig up that email.
I
Works
think it
part?
was just with parks, but I will
Parks.
check. I have mine up, so let me
Yeah.
just double check
I
on that
do
as well.
too. Yeah, I felt it was just with parks also.
So, yeah, because, both Parks and Public Works have major tree stuff that happens, and they kind of operate independently.
No, it
because-
was Parks, Street, and Public Works.
Okay,
Wait a minute. Who was it sent to? It was, I mean, the email started off with, the subject line being questions for parks / streets / public works city staff about trees. So,
Sorry to interject. I
Yeah.
sent it to Jake and Jessica in parks only
oh,
on February 2nd.
okay. Because the subject line did include public works. So,
So I think that was maybe my ask from you, but the email that I
Oh.
sent, Urban Trees Connecting with the Sustainability Committee. So I did not actually send it to Public Works that I can see in my email. And you and Ken were CC'd on that. So
yep, I got it.
if
Thank
you would like me to do the same with Public Works or kind of forward that email, and then I could, re-loop in parks as well, I'd be happy to do
I
that.
wonder if it makes sense to just, since we haven't heard back from them, would it be appropriate to just sort of reply to all and just say, hey, friendly reminder, we'd still like to meet with you. And and maybe just say, you know, we didn't intend to leave off the public works folks the first time around, and this is an opportunity to loop them in also.
Great.
Yeah, and Teresa, you know Dan quite well already, right? Because you've met over the water. Well, I mean, but you've met with him
Yeah,
before.
yeah, yeah.
And you're gonna
yeah,
get to know him really well and say
really
like,
well.
oh, I don't
Yeah.
know, like a month from now.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, so and I mean, it may be that he actually would, he'll pull in Jeff Johnson, who is really
Yeah.
head of the cruise, and but since they both have their own thing, I think it makes sense to try to meet with both of them. And I certainly don't have any objection to doing something with trees on the 29th. I am available on the 29th. But again, I think we got to get with them first and find
me
out
too. Me too.
how we can help, what we can do. Yeah. Okay.
So circle back on the email, just like, hey, friendly reminder, kind of like poking them on that, and then include Dan and who did you say, Johnson?
Well, if Dan wants to include Jeff, he'll do it. So I would write
Okay.
directly to Dan. Yeah.
Just Dan.
I know Jeff, so
Molly-
I'll include Jeff and,
Okay.
and
Okay.
And so Molly, you're gonna do that? You're gonna, which I'd be happy if you do, but I'm just saying,
I am literally doing it at this very moment.
you're the best. Okay.
Right. Fantastic.
So we reach, I'm sorry, so we reach out to Public Works, and then ideally getting back to outreach, public outreach, and that lovely, that's an amazing list of stuff going on in Monona, by the way. We could possibly still do something with tree planting, because so much work went into that. I just feel like it's shovel ready.
Yeah, but remember the conversation is learning more about how they currently
Yes.
operate and how
Yes.
we might be able to plug into it as opposed to expecting them to bend to whatever.
Right. So I won't get too ahead of ourselves. So,
Yeah.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
I hear you. Yep.
How we can plug into it and ramp it up in the process,
Yep.
basically,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So basically how we can support their efforts
correct.
by just being more involved with them rather than the other way around.
Yeah,
Correct. Exactly.
yeah. Because those, as just an example, all those parks events don't happen without them already being in high gear, for the
Mhm,
season,
mhm.
right? So just in terms of time commitment, I mean, I know that's the issue we had last time, was that, I mean, Missy's, just had a baby and I just know, with between staff hiring for the summer and everything else, they're really, really, really busy. So just got to be realistic about how we can help, how we can.
So when I look at this list, I think obvious connections. We've got Earth Day, we're doing something. Arbor Day, maybe we'll do something. Memorial Day Parade, Electric Mower Brigade, that kicks ass, you guys. Oh, I'm being recorded. Sorry, I won't say that. It's a wonderful idea for getting people's attention, right? And
Yeah.
for engaging the community. So that could be one, right? Then we've got National Night Out. If we want to try and do something with electric vehicles on National Night Out, just electric vehicles, like that could be kind of cool. I mean, kind of like do the same old thing that we did a few years ago, Dan, like the rodeo, whatever we called it. I know that the police chief is trying to rebrand National Night Out so that it has more neighborhood outreach and less showing off of militaristic, police gear. I think, I don't know, we kind of already did it once, so we know how to do it, I guess
Right.
is my point.
Right. Yeah, so let's, I think, by the way, because we're finally through COVID and we haven't had a parade in 3 years and we were already the biggest parade in the state.
Wanna do
I
it.
think the Memorial Day parade is gonna be huge.
Yes,
Like, there's gonna be a big turnout.
yes.
So you know, I'm certainly game to do a brigade. Maybe that means,
And
yeah.
when Dan and Mark Buffett and when we organized the sustainability event at National Night Out a couple, 2-3 years ago, there was a special group of people that brought their electric and push mowers, real mowers. And by now, I'm sure many more people in Monona own them. So
Right.
it would be pretty interesting to see how many citizens we could pull out and get to march or push
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
parade.
I might recommend connecting with Lisa Gunlock on that
Yes,
issue.
yes,
And think,
yes.
because I'm sure that she knows more
She's the person, yep.
individuals like herself in the community.
Yep,
And
for
she's a
sure.
big proponent, so that'd be a good connection.
yep.
Will they be in the
Redmond,
parade?
no. What's that?
Lawnmower brigade parade? Is that what you're
Yeah,
thinking?
yeah, we would kind of like, yeah, we would, Nancy has the whole.
Yeah, I
spiel.
mean, and I don't know who has push mowers, but that's also, it doesn't, you know, they don't, you do. With that big lawn, you have a push mower, Molly?
Oh, we have a rider now, but we also have the push mower, so.
Okay, okay. I was like, holy cow, that's a commitment. So, yeah, so, I mean, the original thought with the brigade was that, you know, I was just stealing the idea from my sister who years ago started doing a brigade of push mowers and electric mowers, you know, doing kind of like the Shriners do with their motorcycles, you know, in a parade, except for instead of it being the Shriners, you know, on their little motorcycles, it's people with various really, you know, energy efficient mowers and signs, you know, which not only are talking about investing in those kind of mowers, but also, you know, mowing less, you know, mowing every 2 weeks as opposed to every 5 days, like, or 4 days, like my neighbor does. You know, and because it's all good for the environment. So we need to find out how to get ourselves into the Memorial Day parade.
Yeah,
as a
how do
start.
we do that?
And then start signing up people for the brigade. There you go.
Is the Parks Department the ones who primarily organize that, or is it, because I know for like the community festival, I think there are other people who also.
Yeah, no, the Memorial Day is not Parks. I don't know who
Okay.
it is. I'm sure it'd be easy to find out, but I'm not sure who it is.
Yeah, well, I can reach out to Parks and ask just who the contact would be.
That's great. That's great. And
It's
Dan just put, for
such
those
a-
of you that missed it, Dan just put in the chat the link to the news article about the fact that it is the largest in the state. It wasn't Joshin.
And to have a mower brigade would just be so, it's just so funny. It's such a low tech, fun thing to do. I think it would be really well received.
Yeah.
I love the
Me
idea.
too.
So we've got Earth Day, Arbor Day, maybe Arbor Day. I'm just not gonna push it. Memorial Day parade. And then let's like with like some sort of like electric vehicle, an opportunity for people to come and talk about their electric vehicles. Whether that's again with National Night Out, or do we do something for the community festival, 4th of July? I don't know.
I would say National Night Out is a better time to loop people into
Okay.
something like that. The community festival is a booze fest. I mean, it's a real wild time, so.
Yeah, so you don't want your fancy cars. Yeah. Okay. And I'm not suggesting that we knock ourselves out with crazy amounts of work. I'm just saying, invite people to show off their electric vehicles, invite people to be part of the mower brigade, you know, just all of these events. The tree planting event is the most labor intensive, and we don't even know if that's going to happen. I want to save our energies for, some big stuff that moves us closer to 100% clean energy.
Yeah. Okay. Are we good on events for now?
Yes, I am.
Anything else on the event front? So just towards the end towards the Memorial Day parade, which would be the next thing after the Earth Day, if you know of anybody that has an electric or a push mower, sign them up. Tell them that we need them in the parade, and we can start developing a list of the people that have them, and enlist and make sure they have it on their calendar. Okay. Great. Should we move on? Are we good? Okay, let's move on to new business and the dashboard.
Yeah, so I think this was mentioned at the last meeting, and I know we've just been having a larger discussion about communication, about how we've progressed towards our clean energy goals. And with Earth Day coming up, I've been working on all the data analysis for 2021 for our energy and natural gas use, and was interested to see if any of you had thoughts or feedback about how the dashboard could, if there are improvements we could make to the dashboard to better communicate some of the stuff that we're doing, since I'm working on making the dashboard for 2021 right now.
Sure.
Because I know there's a lot of information on those two dashboards, and so, but I think sometimes for me it's a little hard to see it from an outside perspective, since I'm so familiar with all of the data that we have. So I don't know if anyone has thoughts, feedback, anything like that for the dashboard. And I can, if it's helpful, I can share my screen and show you what the 2020 dashboard looked like. It's also in the packet.
Yeah, actually, if you could share your screen, that would be great.
Sure.
I was like, no, that's okay, shaking my head. And then Nancy was like, yes, please put it on the screen.
Okay.
So there's the sort of data heavy one. This is the metrics. And then there's the second one, which is more project focused. But yeah, I mean, even this one I think is a little, I don't know. In some ways I think it's pretty text heavy, but it's also trying to describe a bunch of things. So yeah, any thoughts, comments, feedback?
I had a comment. I appreciated seeing the information there on the tree planting, because this was the first numbers I'd actually seen for the forestry fund. It's a little disappointing that it only garnered $1,100. That's probably like 4 trees when we lost, I don't know, probably 10 times that amount in that same calendar year. But it's good to see some data for it. So I'm glad to know that we're actually collecting that information.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hopefully next year we'll get a little more money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could we back up a little bit to the data for a second?
Yeah. Sorry, this computer's being really slow today.
That's all right. I think what I heard when we first started talking about getting the word out was the concern that we've actually spent a lot of money, right? So far, even to get to 19% coming from renewable sources and reducing our fuel usage, et cetera, that, the city has invested a lot in what I heard when we discussed was, are we sufficiently telling the story? And specifically around the ROI. And so I guess that to me, first speaks to the data, which is to say, like for instance, with natural gas, the amount of, it says the natural gas use, let's just take natural gas as an example. So it decreased by 23% in 2020. But in my mind, the bars don't necessarily show
Don't tell
that.
a story,
They don't
Yeah.
really, right?
right? Yeah, I think, and I was looking at it, it's like a lot of great data. It is dense. I think my suggestion would be to make it more of a story that you're telling, and maybe present the data more generally rather than have all the specific data points, and how maybe you work ROI into that, like for electricity, for example. So I would pull together like all of the things energy related and put those together. So it's not split between the 2 pages. It's like, what did we do from an initiatives point of view? How do we measure it? So we look at reduction in power for some of the green energy projects. So in 2021, if we have specific highlights on, for example, City Hall and LED retrofitting or whatever that might be, we could tell the story and say, these were the projects. This is the reduction that we saw, over the year, and then spin it to say, what does that translate to in dollars from an energy cost point of view? So while energy costs went up X%, our use went down Y%, and that really means we got a net improvement in savings of this from a dollar point of view, and make it really as simple as we can.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense. I like the idea of grouping like energy efficiency projects that we've done with then a data point about how much energy we've saved because of that.
Because like I look at natural gas and I'm like, what's public works usage went up while City Hall went down? What is the story behind that? Like there's probably some initiatives or something that was going on that, as a citizen wondering, like, we got our 23% reduction, how did we do it? Did it just happen because of, like you see in your bill from MG&E, they'll give you degree days, right? And that still like doesn't make a lot of sense to people, because they're like, what does that mean? A bigger degree day number means it was colder, therefore your energy use would be higher. But it's like different in the summer, because I think degree days, isn't it, where in the hotter it is, it's like a bigger number too. So I think it's a way of normalizing like the amount of what's going on with Mother Nature and how much we have to spend in terms of energy or gas in order to normalize temperature, right? And so degree days might be a way of looking at it, of like saying, hey, even though it was, this much hotter or colder, we still were able to decrease utilization by this, and this is what we attribute it to, in order to tie out the rest of the story.
Right.
And even in that public transit story, I see like, 28% reduction in ridership. Well, at the same time, what was the reduction in people traveling? We might have seen a 50% drop in people traveling and only a 28% drop in, public transportation ridership. Maybe there's another factor that we can use to balance it out. Really tie it, anchor it to something, right?
Right.
Yeah, I almost feel like
I
2020
think the
as an-
metric that might be relevant. Sorry, Teresa, you go ahead. I
It's okay.
didn't mean to talk over you there.
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, Ken.
I was going to say, at least for the buildings that the city operates, I think the relevant metric would actually be an EUI, an energy utilization index, which would combine the electricity and natural gas metrics for all the buildings together into a single number. And it's usually expressed in BTUs per square foot. And the reason I say that is because, you know, knowing that we're going to have new building projects coming online in a few years, we're going to be operating more buildings, more square footage. There'll be newer buildings, but they'll, you know, we'll be adding square footage. So the amount of natural gas that we consume very likely might increase when that happens, as well as the electricity could as well. But if we went to an EUI index, which is what engineers actually use that work in building science, it allows you to track from year to year, even if you add new buildings or, you know, get rid of buildings or, you know, change buildings from natural gas heat to electric heat, because it standardizes around a single metric, that EUI metric. And it might be that Brad already measures that for the facilities.
And it,
Yeah,
like,
because we use EPA portfolio for, like, I upload all of our data to EPA portfolio and they can produce reports with metrics like EUI for all of our buildings.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
that might be the metric to actually report.
well, I guess my comment and then concern and maybe follow up on that is it's a very technical metric, right? And so if our target audience is Monona, you know, as a whole, let's make sure it's still simple and understandable to tell the story, because we want to have that impact. Perhaps it's like, again, telling the story of like, what does that mean for the community? What does that mean for the impact that we're generating based on the activities that we're doing? Maybe the opportunity is to call out the most efficient, you know, facilities and the least efficient facilities and what we're potentially doing about them. I mean, we don't, I think, do enough to call out the areas where there have been significant impact, you know, in terms of like, wow, look, the, you know, public works group, you know, might have reduced their fuel the most compared to other groups. Like, this is our opportunity to, you know, gamify a bit, to call out and acknowledge the impacts that different groups may be making in terms of the overall carve out of what we're trying to highlight as a community.
Yeah. So, I could see, you know, I think it's probably still possible, Dan, to tell the story even with that geeky measure that Ken was talking about. But I mean, maybe we could, you know, if anybody else has any comments about this, and maybe if there's a few people that are willing to work with Alyssa, again, maybe, you know, maybe there's, I always love stealing from other places, you know that. So, you know, maybe there's some other communities that are, or other graphs that make more sense, but it sounds like what I'm hearing obviously is we feel like this isn't sufficiently telling the story. And so we need some folks to help tackle this. Help Alyssa tackle this in a way that we can do a better job.
I think it's just like, you know, the natural gas graph is hard to appreciate, you know, comparing those buildings against one another, because they're all different sizes, right?
Exactly.
So that's sort of having the EUI number where it bases it on a square foot, you know, measure, allows you to compare, you know, facilities with one another, so you can see which one is more efficient or less efficient. Because of course, if you have a building that's twice the size of a smaller one, it's going to use more gas, right? Even if it's super
right. And
efficient, if it's
I'm not
twice
even
as
sure
big,
that
it's going to use gas, you know?
right. And Ken, I'm not even sure that comparing the buildings one to another is really that important. I mean, I from a story standpoint, I just want to know that our facility, you know, that our numbers are looking better because we've made investments in our facilities. And I don't know that, like, looking at the pool versus the library is really that important to the story, is it?
Well, I guess the thing that stood out to me on the natural gas graph is you can see the big difference for City Hall there.
Right.
in the last year. And sort of the opposite thing happens with the public works garage where the consumption goes up. Now I don't know what the story is behind why those bars look that way. It might just be the way we were using those buildings during COVID. I don't know. But
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. This is from 2020, and so like City Hall's usage was way down because no one was here
Right.
or like not as much of the building was used. And you can see in the pool, like for the pool, there isn't a bar for 2020 because the pool wasn't open in 2020.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, the data for 2020 specifically is a little weird because it was the height of the pandemic. So I'll be interested to see how like data from 2021 compares to, 2019 and before, to see if we've continued to, because I think overall we've been on a somewhat steady decrease in just energy use overall, but yeah. we'll just
Yeah,
see.
I mean, these are all, there's a use for all of these, right? Some of the thoughts that come through my head are, one, is 2020 really the year we want to, showcase? Yeah, that's kind of like what you just said, Elisa. And then there's like, what about just focusing on all the energy use and what's the story we want to tell? Like, do we just want to tell the story like how we're moving toward our commitment for 100%, clean energy? And like Nancy said, I agree with it. Maybe it doesn't need to be broken down by building use. That's to tell a different story for a different purpose. But if our purpose is to get our community, that commitment to 100%, maybe this particular graph isn't what we want. Maybe it's just fuel, electricity, and natural gas. It wouldn't be trash and recycling. It would not be water use. That's good and important, but just not, included in our resolution.
Right.
Yeah.
I just have one simple suggestion, which is to use, we've talked about the graphical organization and telling a story and using, less data and, more imagery and storytelling. And I think using real pictures of different, facilities in Monona or different things that we've done as a community would be of benefit to making this pop a little bit more.
Right.
Sorry if somebody already said that. I don't think it has been said, but I just wanted to throw it out
No,
there.
I don't think it had been. I forgot. I was also going to add, as far as like using EUI, people may not have ever heard of that before, but the concept is pretty easy to understand. And so I would advocate for using it. Maybe not solely, but in addition, use both, because it'll teach people something. They'll be happy they learned something new. Once you learn it, it makes total sense. And a non-technical person, certainly like what Ken was saying, you look at these maps and you're like, or these charts, you're like, well, of course City Hall is going to make, use more, of course, and then they start to doubt the data. And that's not what we want. We want to be very, careful about, we need to have people's trust. I think EUI, energy use intensity, I think I would really strongly advocate the use of that in our communication, in our graphs.
Well, and I think in my view, you could combine really what Dan and Ken are both saying. Like it doesn't have to be. The common thread, obviously, that we're all talking about is just telling the story in a way that people get it, that people understand it and see progress. And yeah, the data is going to be wonky. Let's face it. COVID definitely, one of many things that are wonky as a result of COVID. But that doesn't mean that we can't continue to tell the story. So again, I'm going to go back to, is there anybody that wants to Alyssa, based on what you heard, do you want to take a stab at doing something slightly different? Or do you want somebody from this committee to work on it with you? One or
No,
two
I
people?
can, I can definitely, so this is part of my job anyway.
Yeah.
I can definitely, this has all been really great feedback. I love it.
Okay,
And I'll be going through and drafting the 2021 dashboard over the next couple weeks, hopefully.
yeah,
And I can, if there are people who would like to review a draft and give me some feedback on that, I'd be happy to send it to them once I have that sort of put together. And then we can make, I'm always happy to do another round of edits or tweaks before it's finalized.
fantastic.
I'd
As
be
always.
happy to give that a review and offer feedback to you.
Great.
Same.
Great. Thanks, guys. Anybody else?
I have a question. The question about water usage, in what year did Monona implement the smart technology that we now have?
2021.
Just 2021.
Yeah.
So
That's
we
when all the
do
meters
have,
were installed.
okay, so we do have some statistics, some good, great, so we got these great historical statistics, and it's just going to be wonderful to see if the implementation of that technology makes a change. All right.
I have a thought too on just our electricity part.
Mm-hmm.
Could we just focus on maybe the percentage of the energy rather than the energy amount? Because our goal is to get to 100%. So kind of want to see, what percentage we have year over year. Are we moving by 1% a year, 2% a year? It's really hard to see in the data because you're not,
Right.
you've got reduction, and then you've
Yeah.
got some fluctuations happening with, MG&E, some fluctuations happening. It looks like, tapering of solar production just because of, different circumstances there. But if we could simplify and maybe just get to a percentage, are we on track? If we look at what, the future looks like, are we just way off from being trending in the right way?
Right. So, Dan, to your point too, I think, the reality, when I look at things like the fuel use as an example, I understand that there's, exercise and diet. I get that. But the reality is that, like you said, we're going for the percentage of clean energy, not necessarily, reduce the dramatic reductions in the amount of energy that we use. Yes, there's ways that we can reduce, but as a perfect example, we just talked about the natural gas usage. Well, City Hall was open and the pool wasn't, or the library had, reduced visitation. So of course they had, they used less energy. So I just think that's, the key is the percentage that we're making, the percentage that we're improving. And the same thing applies to something like water usage. I look at the water usage and I'm thinking of course we're going to have our water usage go up because our resident numbers have gone up. Our population is increasing and we have a lot more families.
Yeah, so maybe it's water usage per capita or something like that.
Right, exactly. So I think there needs to be, So Lisa, I think you have some feedback and you have a couple of volunteers, and if anybody else wants to join that and look at it, feel free. But you have a couple of volunteers that have offered to weigh in.
Yeah, no, this is great. I
Okay,
appreciate it.
we appreciate you.
This is my favorite thing that I get to do every year.
Oh my God.
I really enjoy it. So
Fantastic. All right. Anything else on the dashboard before we move on? And I do think, by the way, from my standpoint, the second page that talks a little bit about what we've done, I think that that's also an important part of the story. Like, for instance, we've installed the B cycles, and our 2 stations in B cycle are 2 of the busiest stations in the entire network. Like the whole damn network, our 2 stations are just, they're kicking, they're really making a difference. And so, so anyway, and I don't know how many more drains have been adopted.
Yeah,
But
those
I
are-
think those are key things, I think.
yeah, I've got a list of things that have happened over the last year to include,
Fantastic,
including the B-cycle stations.
fantastic.
I
Thank you.
didn't know about the B cycle. That's incredible. That's really impressive.
Yeah,
Can we
yeah.
add? I mean, that's a great story.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
I didn't know we had 2 stations. I only knew about the one in Schluter Beach.
Yeah,
Yeah, we have, the other one's over at the riverfront.
yeah.
Well, that's a good spot. That makes
It is a
sense.
Great.
good
is.
spot, yeah, and the developments that are being discussed, the new developments that are being discussed, everybody's talking about putting in more stations. The ones on Broadway and the ones on Dean, so Dean and Monona, so, okay. Should we move on?
Mhm.
Great. Number 7, DEIB discussion items. Anything on the DEI front?
I don't have anything in particular.
Okay.
So thinking about our upcoming e-cycle event, is there anything we could be doing to add an aspect to it that would be more inclusive?
I can't remember from last year, but I think a big one here would just be accessibility for people who are differently abled. Like if there is, people don't really have to get out of their cars, but
Do we
you
try
know,
to set
if
up
there's
some
a way we could just make
volunteer?
it, if volunteers are going to be coming, who, things like that.
I'm thinking like, do we want to try and organize something where people maybe who can't get themselves there, there's a volunteer who could help
Right,
to open up, access to that kind of an event?
Yeah, like go around and pick up items from people or like seniors or other individuals who might not be able to.
Exactly.
Drive there.
Yep.
I think that's a great idea, Dan. I think I would be happy to volunteer to be that person, just given my connections with the senior center. And so once we have more of the marketing materials from Michelle, perhaps I could forward to Diane and just say, have people contact me if they need me to get anything in advance of the day.
I mean, could there be like a crew, like is that another MG21 opportunity, get a van and then set up a sign up schedule and have people go through and just try to make as many pickups as they can for people who just can't drive anymore, or, maybe don't have the extra gas money to make it.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And again, I think once, like I could ask Diane to disseminate it to, maybe in the newsletter, the senior center newsletter, or, to a mailing list. And then once we know people who might be interested, I think involving MG21 or, other groups of volunteers is a great idea. But I can take that on.
yeah, no, I think that's a great idea too, and in fact, I remember talking about going around and doing that last year, but because of COVID, we couldn't.
Mhm.
So, because it wasn't safe for us to be going, helping, picking people's stuff off, out of their homes, helping them get stuff out of their homes. So I think that would be great.
Yeah, Molly, will you just loop me in on those emails so I can provide any of the event information stuff that they need?
Do you think I should jump on it now, or do we want to wait for anything additional from Michelle? Just use our,
I would just wait until, I'm not in the office again until next week, until Monday. So maybe on Monday,
Great.
I can shoot you an email about it.
great, that sounds good. And we'll get the ball rolling.
Is there anything we should be doing for events and things that we're doing to try to collect some DI data in terms of participation and reach, so we can measure year-over-year changes? I don't want to have to survey everybody coming in, but it's like trying to get an idea of where are you coming from, and maybe some of that detail, so we can measure, like, are we getting impact to everybody, to what the distribution of population looks like in the area.
Yeah, I mean, it would be, go ahead, Teresa.
Sorry, when you just mentioned reach, that was what was on my mind. And I was wondering what Michelle's, when they do the direct mailings to promote and advertise the event, is that missing anybody? Like, is it missing renters, or is it missing, I don't know. It goes out to every single address in Monona, is that?
Oh, I
No, I
don't,
think you said it was 2,700, so that can't be every address.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't know exactly how they choose that. I can certainly ask her. I'd be interested to know. Because they might, I don't know. I mean, Nancy knows this, at Plan Commission, we have to send out mailings to people to notify them of upcoming agenda items. And
Yeah,
one of the things that is difficult is reaching apartments, because we
Right.
base our mailings on like billing data, not necessarily mailing addresses. So it just, I will definitely touch base with Michelle about how, like, who they send it to and how they choose that. And then maybe we can think about, I don't know how much we'll be able to do for this year in terms of additional mailings, but maybe, depending on where the mailings go to, we can think about for next year, okay, like,
right,
who else would we want to reach, and how might we be able to reach them with a mailing?
right. So we just want to make sure everyone gets an invitation, right, to the
Right.
party, so.
So just
Yeah.
as long as we're talking about outreach, the other group that occurs to me, and maybe it's Dan, as a business owner, you might have a better take on this, but is there any, would businesses be interested in using this recycling service?
I don't think there is any limit to who can use it. I think it's whoever in the area wants to recycle. It could be business items, or there's a lot of home office situations too, computers getting recycled. We had a massive amount of computer equipment coming in last year.
Right. So if that's the case, then we should probably add to the promo that we get information to MESBA and Monona area.
That's a great
businesses,
idea.
because we've got a lot of small businesses that probably have stuff stored up too.
Yeah, I can reach out to Devin and ask him.
And it
to-
might be that the businesses aren't available on a Saturday, or they're open on a Saturday, so they can't come over because they're slammed. But it seems to me getting the word out to our business community too would be a good idea. Okay. Anything else on DEIB? That's where we were, believe it or not.
Well, I go back to, if we're gonna have impact, we need to have a specific plan. So we just talked about events earlier too. What should we have as a DEI checklist in terms of things we should be considering with any of these events as part of our planning process?
Well, like, for instance, one of the things that we talked about in terms of outreach, is getting the word out to the schools. And we talked about MG21 in our own schools, but we didn't talk about One City Schools or Nostro Mundo. So we got to make sure, I'm checking that all the time, like even in terms of the RFP that we just put together for San Damiano. So, we should make sure to loop them into when we're talking about getting the word out to schools about events and about this particular event as well.
Should we be considering like having things in Spanish then when we're putting out communications and notifications, doing bilingual at a minimum for outreach.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We
I
could,
can, I can translate our stuff to Spanish. I don't know any other languages though. So if there are other, I don't know if we wanted to like do some translation to Hmong, that would be something else. And I don't know, I'm sure the
Yeah.
city translates some things to other languages, so I can see.
We have
what the
access to
process-
data on what the demographics are for city of Monona in terms of language distribution and
It's just-
ethnicity.
Yeah. It's just
Yeah.
wondering
Certainly. There are some places, I mean, you know, the census doesn't necessarily collect that exact data, but there are other community-based surveys that they might not collect only for Monona, but could give us an idea.
Mhm.
I
I know I've
think,
looked in.
sorry, I'm sorry, Elisa.
No, just I've looked into some of that stuff for urban planning related things. And it's certainly, I mean, as is the case in many Wisconsin places, we're definitely majority white and English speaking, but I definitely think it's worth looking into. I can see what I can find.
I was just gonna say, I believe that we have some updated data on that based on our partnership with Nehemiah and also just the mayor. I know the mayor talked about it recently as far as percentage of individuals of different cultural backgrounds and ethnicities. So it may be worth just reaching out to Mary and seeing if she has that information.
Yeah, definitely.
and then I would also reach out actually to our contractor, reach out to the recycling, because I'd be surprised if they don't have like the postcards that they just mailed out. I'd be
Yeah.
surprised if they didn't have them in Spanish already,
Mhm.
given the number of events that they do like this.
Mhm.
Yeah, let's-
with it-
I'd say let's not assume, let's just make sure that's part of our checklist too, and
Right.
say, hey, this is what we want to make sure you understand about Monona, our community, and things that'll help make sure you maximize your reach.
Right. I totally agree.
That's
Was-
great.
Anything else on this item? No? Okay, any updates, important updates from committee members or items to consider for future agendas?
I just want to make a brief note. I think this is probably my last sustainability committee meeting as an Alder co-chair. And so I just wanted to say, just express the gratitude I have for this committee. It was a committee of which I wanted to be a part of which I wanted to be a part. There she is, English major.
There she
You
is.
got
You
this.
get it. Yeah.
Since at that time when I was first elected in 2018. And so I just wanted to, being a part of this committee, I've learned so much. I've so appreciated the networking with all of you and the different, sort of former and, potential members of the committee that we regularly collaborate with. Yeah, I mean, I'm grateful that my time is coming to a close after just a lot of work and emotional involvement. But I really will miss seeing all of you. And I hope that you'll, consider me sort of a peripheral person for different events and volunteering opportunities, because I mean it very sincerely when I hope that we will stay in touch and that I can stay connected to this committee in some capacity. So thank you all for all that you do, both in this capacity for the city and, in your respective personal lives and professional lives. It's really been a pleasure. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Molly. I'm surprised the mayor hasn't like twisted your arm to ask you if you want to serve on a half a dozen committees when you're not an alder.
Hey, I applied for the senior committee, so
You did?
talk about diversity.
You're gonna stay on the
That's just a
senior
joke.
committee?
That's just a joke. I applied because we have an opening. I mean, I'll be a young person on the senior committee, but
Right.
anyway. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy to continue to volunteer and assist in any capacity that I can. So
Right.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you. Needless to say, thank you very much for your service. And I'm really glad you've been on the committee as well. I appreciate everything that you've done. I know everybody here does.
You'll be missed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have something to share, I think is perhaps something that should have spoken up when we talked about DEI initiatives, but I was invited along with probably, I don't know, a dozen or so other citizens in Monona. Were invited to be part of the new police chiefs, call it the Chiefs Roundtable,
Oh,
where
cool.
it is very cool, where he, and we had our first meeting and how, and I think I'm being given the opportunity to stay or go, depending upon my elected status. I did ask him if it was okay, because I don't think he intended to reach out to elected folks. But at the meeting, we talked about how it could actually be beneficial to have at least, a representative there at the meetings. He just has some fabulous visions for changing how we achieve community safety, and just really starting with relationship building at the core of that, and building trust. And he just is really great human being. So that was a real treat to be part of that group. And I think they intend to meet once a month just to talk about, ideas about what they're seeing around, what people are seeing around town, what recommendations we have for how the police can interact with, community members more. And I can see clearly in a very short while since Chief Austin has been here with us, that his officers are out and about so much more than they used to be. They go to block parties and they went to the San Damiano Snow Snake games, and they're out in the community. And he actually has it as a requirement that each officer has to attend so many community events per year and meet the people in the community. So that's just really great.
Maybe they like the e-cycle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can get him to come to the e-cycle event. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure that the police department probably has a lot of really old computers and, and equipment and radios and everything else, since that's they go through a lot of that stuff. But anyway, thank you, Teresa, for that. I didn't realize you were part of that roundtable, but he reported on it. It's great.
It was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else?
Just one last thing.
Yeah.
I'd love to know, with the mask mandate lifted and things
Oh,
a little bit. Yeah, I don't know if
thank
anyone.
God. What did I say to you at the beginning of the meeting? Remind me before we
Reminding you.
adjourn. Do people want to get back together in person starting next month, as opposed to Zoom?
I don't know.
Potentially offer a hybrid version too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll definitely
I have
do
mixed
hybrid.
feelings. Yeah.
We'll definitely do hybrid, but I'm still feeling a little bad for Lisa sitting there on like the massive conference table all by herself. It's a requirement, by law, that we have to have the meeting open. So,
And I mean, I know that the mask mandate is lifted now, but we can also, if people want to meet in person and be masked, that's totally fine as well.
Okay. I will, let's go, unless people have an objection, can we go hybrid?
Mhm.
Yes, let's do hybrid. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you want to go to City Hall, if you want to go to the conference room in City Hall, you can do that. And if you can't do that, I just think I feel like it's made a pretty major difference in not a good way for the other committees that I work with. I think the Plan Commission is much better when we're in person, and I think the City Council is better when we're in person. As convenient as it is to jump on a screen. So with that, anything else?
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you all. Really appreciate it.
All right, bye,
Thanks,
folks.
everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank
See you
you.
soon.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks again, Molly. We'll miss you.